welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to read The Adventures of Captain Underpants by Dow Pilkey. This book is dedicated to my friend Mythic Dull. Let's begin, shall we? Chapter 1. George and Harold. Meet George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. George and Harold were best friends. They had a lot in common. They lived right next door to each other, and they were both in the same 4th grade class at John Horwitz Elementary School. George and Harold were usually responsible kids. Whenever anything bad happened, George and Harold were usually responsible. Flower shop, pick your own roses. Flower shop, pick your noses. But don't get the wrong idea about these two. George and Harold were actually very nice boys. No matter what everybody else thought, they were good, sweet and lovable. Well, okay, maybe they weren't so sweet and lovable, but they were good nonetheless. It's just that George and Harold each had a silly streak a mile long. Usually, that silly streak was hard to control. Sometimes it got them into big trouble, and once it got them into big trouble. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 2. Treehouse Comics Inc. After a hard day of cracking jokes, pulling pranks, and causing mayhem at school, George and Harold liked to rush to old treehouse in George's backyard. Inside the treehouse, there were 2 big old fluffy chairs, a table, a cupboard crammed with junk food, and a padlock crate filled with pencils, pens, and stacks of paper. Now, Harold loved to draw, and George loved to make up stories, and together the 2 boys spent hours and hours writing and drawing their very own comic books. Over the years, they had created hundreds of their own comics, starring dozens of their own superheroes. First there was Dogman, then came Timmy the Talking Toilet, and who could forget the amazing Cow Lady? But the all-time greatest superhero they had ever made, the amazing Captain Underpants. George came up with the idea. Most superheroes look like they're flying around in the underwear. He said, well, this guy actually is flying around in his underwear. The 2 boys laughed and laughed. Yeah, said Howard. He could fight with veggie power. George and Harold spent entire afternoons writing and drawing comic adventures of Captain Underpants. He was their coolest superhero ever. Luckily for the boys, the secretary at John Horwitz Elementary School was much too busy to keep an eye on the copy machine. So whenever they got a chance, Harold and George would sneak into the office and run off several hundred copies of their latest Captain Underpants adventure. After school, they sold their homemade comics on the playground for 50 cents each. Chapter 3. The Adventures of Captain Underpants, written by George Beard. Cartoons by Harold Hutchins. The Real Cool Adventures of Captain Underpants, written by George Beard, drawn by Harold Hutchins. It was a time of darkness and despair for the planet Earth. Bad guys had taken over the streets, and all of the superheroes in the world were too old to fight evil. Hey! Ha ha! Then came along a new, improved, extra-strength superhero. Tra-la-la! Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's an exiled salvage. No way, I'm Captain Underpants. Captain Underpants was faster than a speeding waistband, more powerful than boxer shorts, and able to leap tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Tra-la-la! Night and day, Captain Underpants watched over the city, fighting for truth, justice, and all that is pre-shrunk and cottony. Meanwhile, at a nearby elementary school. Turn the page. It was Stinky Taco's surprise day at the cafeteria. Yuck! Everybody hated it so much they all threw it away. Soon, the food monster came to life. I am the Incredible Hunk! The monster ran around the school, eating everything in sight. Munch, munch. Help, the Incredible Hunk just ate up 15 folding chairs and the gym teacher. Oh no, not the folding chairs. This looks like a job for Captain Underpants! Tra-la-la! Captain Underpants shot lots of underwear at the monster, but it didn't do any good. Zip, munch, munch. So Captain Underpants took off running. The Incredible Hunk chased him. Grrr! Help! And chased him. Finally, the Incredible Hunk got too tired and thirsty to chase Captain Underpants. How about a nice drink of water? So the monster took a long drink of water from a shiny white ball. Gulp, gulp, when suddenly, flush! Hooray for Captain Underpants! And so the Incredible Hunk got flushed away and was never heard from again. Tra-la-la! The end. Don't miss our next exciting adventure, Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets, coming soon to a playground near you. Treehouse Comics Inc. Chapter 4, Mean Old Mr. Crab. Do you see that old guy looking out the window up there? That's Mr. Crab, the principal. Now, Mr. Crab was the meanest, sourest old principal in the whole history of John Howard's elementary school. He hated laughter and singing. He hated sounds of children playing at recess. In fact, he hated children altogether. And guess which two children Mr. Crab hated most of all? If you guessed George and Howard, you are right. Mr. Crab hated George and Howard. He hated their pranks, their wisecracks. He hated their silly attitudes and their constant giggling. And he especially hated those awful Captain Underpants comic books. I'm going to get those boys one day, Mr. Crab vowed. One day, very, very soon. Kneel here. Chapter 5. One day, very, very soon. Remember when I said that George and Harold's silly streak got them into big trouble once? Well, this is the story of how that happened, and how some huge pranks and a little blackmail turned their principal into the coolest superhero of all time. It was the day of the big football game between the Horwich Knuckleheads and the Steubenville Stingbugs. The bleachers were filled with fans. John Horwich Elementary School. See our big football game today. Cheerleaders ran onto the field and shook their pom-poms over their hair. A fine black dust drifted out of their pom-poms and settled all around them. Give me a K, shouted the cheerleaders. Give me an N, shouted the cheerleaders. N, repeated the fans. Give me an achoo, sneezed the cheerleaders. Achoo, repeated the fans. The cheerleaders sneezed and sneezed some more, but they couldn't stop sneezing. Hey, shouted a fan in the bleacher. Somebody sprinkled black pepper into the cheerleaders' pom-poms. I wonder who did that, asked another fan. The cheerleaders stumbled off the field, sneezing and dripping with mucus, as the marching band members took their places. But when the band began to play, the steady streams of bubbles began blowing out of their instruments. Bubbles were marching. Bubbles were everywhere, up and down the field. Marching band slipped and slid, leaving behind a thick trail of wet, bubbly foam. Hey, shouted a fan in the bleachers. Somebody poured bubble baths into the marching band's instruments. I wonder who did that, asked another fan. Soon, the football teams took the field. The knuckleheads kicked the ball. Up went the ball. Higher and higher it went. The ball sailed into the clouds and kept right on going until nobody could see it anymore. Hey, shouted a fan in the bleachers. Somebody filled the game ball with helium. I wonder who did that, asked another fan. But the missing ball didn't make any difference because at that moment the knuckleheads were rolling around the field, scratching and itching like crazy. "Hey!" shouted the coach. "Somebody replaced our deep heating muscle rub lotion with Mr. Prankster's extra sketchy itching cream." "We wonder who did that," shouted the fans in the bleachers. The whole afternoon went on much the same way, with people shouting everything from "Hey, somebody put sea monkeys in the lemonade" to "Hey, somebody glued all the bathroom doors shut." Before long, most of the fans in the bleachers had gotten up and left. The big game had been forfeited, and everyone in the school was miserable. John Howitz Elementary School. "Boy, our feet smell bad." Everyone, that is, except for two giggling boys crouching in the shadows beneath the bleachers. "Those were our best pranks yet," laughed Holloway. "Yep," chuckled George. "They'll be hard to top, that's for sure." "I just hope we don't get busted for this," said Howard. "Don't worry," said George. "We covered our tracks really well. There's no way we'll get busted." Chapter 6. Busted. The next day at school, an announcement came over the loudspeakers. "George Beard and Harold Hutchins, please report to the principal's Krupp's office at once." "Uh-oh," said Harold. "I don't like the sound of that." "Don't worry," said George. "They can prove anything." George and Harold entered Principal Krupp's office and sat down on the chairs in the front of his desk. The two boys had been in the office together countless times before, but this time was different. Mr. Krupp was smiling. As long as George and Harold had known Mr. Krupp, they had never ever seen him smile. Mr. Krupp knew something. "I didn't see you boys at the big game yesterday." No," said George. "We weren't feeling well." "Yeah," Harold stammered nervously. We went home." "Oh, that's too bad," said Principal Krupp. "You boys missed a good game." George and Harold quickly glanced at each other, gulped. I tried hard not to look guilty. "Luckily for you, I have a videotape of the whole thing." He turned on the television in the corner and pressed the play button on the VCR. A black and white image appeared on the TV screen. It was an overhead shot of George and Harold sprinkling papers into the cheerleaders' pop-up. Next came a shot of George and Harold pouring liquid bubble bath into the marching band instrument. "How do you like the pre-game show?" asked Mr. Krupp with a devilish grin. George eyed the television screen in terror. He couldn't answer. Harold's eyes were glued to the floor. He couldn't look. The tape went on and on, revealing all of George and Harold's behind-the-scene antics. By now, both boys were eyeing the floor, squirming nervously and dripping with sweat. Mr. Krupp turned off the TV. "You know," he said, "ever since you boys came into the school, it's been one prank after another. First you put dissected frogs in the jello salad at the parent-teacher banquet. That's when you made it snow in the cafeteria. Then you rigged all the intercoms so they played Weird Al Yankovic songs full blast for 6 hours straight. For 4 long years, you two have been running amok in the school, and I have never been able to prove anything. Until now." Mr. Krupp held the videotape in his hand. "I took the liberty of installing tiny video surveillance cameras all around the school. I knew I'd catch you two in the act one day. I just didn't know it would be so easy." Chapter 7. A Little Blackmail. Mr. Krupp sat back in his chair and chuckled to himself for a long, long time. Finally, George got up the courage to speak. What are you going to do with that tape?" "I thought you'd never ask," laughed Principal Krupp. "I thought long and hard about what to do with this tape," Mr. Krupp said. "At first, I thought I'd send copies to your parents." The boys swallowed hard and sank deeply into their chairs. "Then I thought I might send a copy to the school board," Mr. Krupp continued. "I could get you both expelled for this." The boys swallowed harder and sank deeper into their chairs. Finally, I came to a decision, Mr. Club concluded. I think the football team would be very curious to find out who was responsible for yesterday's fiasco. I think I'll send a copy to them. George and Harold leaped out of the chairs and fell to their knees. No, cried George. You can't do that. They'll kill us. Yeah, begged Harold. They'll kill us every day for the rest of our lives. Mr. Crab laughed and laughed. Please have mercy, the boys cried. We'll do anything. Anything? Asked Principal Crab with delight. He reached into his desk and pulled out a list of demands and tossed it at the boys. If you don't want to be dead as long as you live, you will follow these rules exactly. George and Harold carefully looked over the list. This is blackmail, sighed George. Call what you like, Principal Crab snapped. But if you don't follow the list exactly, then this tape becomes the property of Howard's knuckleheads. Rules 1. No more practical jokes or pranks. No smiling or laughing. No more Captain Underpants comics. Wash my car every day. Mow my lawn every day. At 6 o'clock the next morning, George and Harold dragged themselves out of bed, walked over to Mr. Crab's house and began washing his car. Then, while Harold scrubbed the tires, George roamed around the yard, pulling up all the weeds, crabgrass he could find. Afterward, they cleaned the gutters and washed all the windows on Mr. Crab's house. At school, George and Harold sat up straight, listened carefully, and spoke only when spoken to. They didn't tell any jokes, they didn't pull any pranks, they didn't even smile. The teacher kept pinching herself. I know this is a dream. At lunch, the two boys vacuumed Mr. Crab's office, shined his shoes, polished his desktop. At recess, they clipped his fingernails and ironed his tie. Each spare moment in the boys' daily schedule was spent catering to Mr. Crab's every whim. After school, George and Harold mowed Mr. Crab's lawn, tended to his garden, and began painting the front of his house. At sunset, Mr. Crab came outside and handed each boy a stack of books. Gentlemen, he said, I've asked your teachers to give you both extra homework. Now go home, study hard, and I'll see you back here at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. We've got a busy day ahead of us. Thank you, sir, moaned the bored boys. George and Harold walked home dead tired. Man, this was the worst day of my entire life. Don't worry, said Harold. We only have to do this for 8 more years. Then we can move away to some far-off island where they'll never find us. Maybe Antarctica. I got a better idea, said George. Hey kids, it's the 3D Hypno Ring. Learn the art of hypnosis. Amaze your friends. Control your enemies. Ride the world. It's easy. It's fun. Only $2.99. Send check or money order to the LT Wise Guy Novelty Co. P.O. Box. Walla Walla Wah. Please allow 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. Plus $1.01 shipping and handling. He took a piece of paper out of a pocket and handed it to Harold. It was an old magazine ad for the 3D Hypno Ring. How is this going to help us? Asked Harold. All we got to do is hypnotize Mr. Crab. We'll make him give us the video and forget the whole mess ever happened. That's a great idea. And the best part is we only have to wait 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. 4 to 6 weeks later. After 4 to 6 weeks of back-breaking slave labor, grueling homework assignments, and humiliating good behavior at school, a package arrived at George's mailbox from the Little Wise Guy Novelty Company. It was a 3D Hypno Ring. To George Beard, 1526 Vine Street, Peoria, Ohio, 45356. Hello, Joa! Cried George. It's everything I ever hoped for. Let me see, said Harold. Don't look directly at it, warned George. You don't want to get hypnotized, do you? Do you really think it will work? Do you really think we can amaze our friends, control our enemies, and take over the world? Just like that ad says, it better work, George. Or else we just wasted 4 whole bucks. The 3D hypno-ring. The next morning, George and Harold didn't arrive early at Mr. Krebs' house to wash his car and reshingle his roof. In fact, they were even a little late getting to school. When they finally showed up, Mr. Krebs was standing at the front door waiting for them. And boy, was he mad! Mr. Krebs escorted the boys into his office and slammed the door. "All right, where were you two this morning?" he growled. "We wanted to come over to your house, but we were busy trying to figure out the secret of this ring." "What ring?" snapped Mr. Krebs. George held up his hand and showed the ring to Principal Krebs. "It's got one of those weird patterns on it," said Harold. "If you stare at it for long enough, a picture appears." "Well, hold it still," snarled Principal Krebs. "I can't see the darn thing. I have to move it back and forth," said George, "or else it won't work." Mr. Krebs' eyes followed the ring back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. "You have to stare deeper into the ring," said Harold. "Deeper, deeper, deeper." "You're getting sleepy," said George. "Very sleepy." Mr. Krebs' eyelids began to droop. "I am so sleepy," he mumbled. After a few minutes, Mr. Krebs' eyes were closed tight and he began to snore. "You are under our spell. When I snap my fingers, you will obey our every command." "Snap!" "I will obey," mumbled Mr. Krebs. "All right," said George. "Have you still got that videotape of me and Howard?" "Yes," mumbled Mr. Krebs. "Well, hand it over, Buck," George instructed. Mr. Krebs unlocked a large file cabinet and opened the bottom drawer. He reached in and handed George the videotape. George stuffed it into his backpack. Harold took a different video out of his backpack and put it in the file cabinet. "What's that video?" "It's one of my little sister's old Boomer and the Purple Dragon sing-along videos." "Nice stats," said George. Chapter 11. Fun with Hypnosis. When Howard bent down to close the file cabinet, he took a quick look inside. "Whoa!" he cried. "Look at all the stuff in here." The file cabinet was filled with everything Mr. Krebs had taken away from the boys over the years. There were slingshots, whoopee cushions, skateboards, fake doggy doo-doo, you name it, it was in there. "Look at this," cried George. "A big stack of Captain Underpants comics." "He has got every issue," said Harold. For hours the two boys sat on the floor laughing and reading their comics. Finally George looked at the clock. "Yikes," he said. "It's almost lunchtime. We better clean up this mess and get to class." The boys looked up at the principal, who had been standing behind them in a trance all morning. "Gee, I almost forgot about Mr. Krebs," said Harold. "What should we do with him?" "Do you want to have some fun?" asked George. "Why not? I haven't had any fun in the last 4 to 6 weeks. "Cool," said George. He walked up to Mr. Krebs and snapped his fingers. "Snap! You are a chicken!" he cried. Suddenly Mr. Krebs leaped into his desk and flapped his arms. "Clock, clock, 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 clock," he cried, kicking his paper off the desk behind him and pecking at the pencil and pen set. George and Harold howled with laughter. Let me try. You are a monkey." "You gotta snap your fingers," said George. "Oh yeah, snap! You are a monkey." Suddenly, Mr. Krebs sprang off his desk and began swinging from the fluorescent light fixtures. "Ooh, ooh, 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 ooh," he shrieked, leaping from one side of the room to the other. George and Harold laughed so hard that they almost cried. My turn, said George. "Let's see, what should we turn him into next?" "I know," Harold said, holding up a Captain Underpants comic. "Let's turn him into Captain Underpants." "Good idea. said George. Snap, you are now the greatest superhero of all time, the amazing Captain Underpants. Mr. Club tore down the red curtain from his office window and tied it around his neck. Then he took off his shoes, socks, shirts, pants, and his awful topi. "Ha-tra-la-la!" he sang. Mr. Crab stood before them looking quite triumphant, with his cape blowing in the breeze of the open window. George and Harold were dumbfounded. "You know," said George, "he kinda looks like Captain Underpants." "Yeah," said Harold. After a short silence, the two boys looked at each other and burst into laughter. George and Harold had never laughed so hard in all their lives. Tears ran down their faces as they rolled about on the floor, shrieking in hysterics. After a while, George pulled himself up from the floor for another look. "Hey!" George cried. "Where did he go?" George and Harold dashed to the window and looked out. There, running across the parking lot, was a pudgy old guy in his underwear with a red cape flowing behind him. "Tra-la-la! Mr. Crab, come back!" shouted Harold. "He won't answer that," said George. "He thinks he's Captain Underpants now." "Oh no," said Harold. "He's probably running off to fight crime." "Oh no!" "We gotta stop him," said George. "Oh no!" cried Harold. "No way! Look, he could get killed out there." Harold was unmoved. "Or worse, we could get into big trouble." "You're right. We gotta go after him." The two boys opened the bottom file cabinet drawer and took out their slingshots and skateboard. "Do you think we should bring anything else?" "Yeah," said George. "Let's bring the fake doggy doo-doo." "Good thinking," said Harold. "You just never know when fake doggy doo-doo is going to come in handy." Harold stuffed Mr. Crab's clothes, shoes, and topi into his backpack, and together the two boys leaped out of the window and slid down the flagpole, took off on their skateboards after the amazing Captain Underpants. Chapter 13. Bank Robbers. George and Harold rode their skateboard all over town looking for Captain Underpants. "I can't find him anywhere," said Harold. "You think a guy like him would be easy to spot." Then the boys turned the corner. There he was. Captain Underpants was standing in front of a bank, looking quite heroic. "Mr. Crab!" cried Harold. "Shh! Don't call him that. Call him Captain Underpants." "Oh yeah," said Harold. "And don't forget to snap your fingers," said George. "Right," said Harold. But before he got a chance, the bank doors flew wide open and out stepped two robbers. The robbers took one look at Captain Underpants and stopped dead in their tracks. "Surrender," said Captain Underpants, "or I will have to resort to veggie power." "Oh no," whispered Harold and George. Nobody moved for about 10 seconds. Finally, the robbers looked at each other and burst out laughing. They dropped their loot and fell to the sidewalk, screaming in hysterics. Almost immediately, the cops showed up and arrested the crooks. "Let that be a lesson to you," said Captain Underpants. "Never underestimate the power of underwear." The police chief looked quite angry, marched over to Captain Underpants. "And just who the heck are you supposed to be?" said the police officer demanded. "Why, I am Captain Underpants, the world's greatest superhero," said Captain Underpants. "I fight for truth, justice, and all that is pre-shunk and cottony." "Oh yeah?" shouted the police chief. "Cuff him, boys." One of the cops took out his handcuffs and grabbed Captain Underpants by the arm. "Uh-oh," cried George. "We gotta roll." Together the two boys zoomed into the crowd, weaving in and out of the cops and bystanders. Harold skated up to Captain Underpants, knocked the superhero off his feet, and George caught him, and the boys skated away with Captain Underpants on their shoulders. "Stop!" cried the cops, but it was too late. George, Harold, and Captain Underpants were gone. Chapter 14. The Big Bang. After the quick escape, George, Harold and Captain Underpants stopped on a deserted street corner to catch their breath. "Okay," said George. "Let's dehypnotize him before something else kaboom happens." A huge explosion came from the rare crystal shop across the street. Heavy smoke suddenly poured out of the building. Suddenly, two robots with one stolen crystal emerged from the smoke and jumped into an old van. Did I just see two robots get into a van? You know, up until now, this story was almost believable. "Well, believable or not," said Howard, "we are not getting involved. I repeat, we are not getting involved." Just then, Captain Underpants leaped from the street corner and dashed in the front of the van. "Stop in the name of underwear!" he cried. "Uh-oh," said George. "I think we are getting involved." The two boys started up the van and swirled around Captain Underpants. Unfortunately, the van brushed up against his red cape and it got caught. With a mighty jerk, Captain Underpants flipped backward and the van pulled him along as it drove away. "Grab him!" cried George. The two boys skateboarded with all their might towards the speeding van and grabbed Captain Underpants by the ankle. "Help!" they cried as the van pulled them through the city streets. "Mommy," said a little boy sitting on a bench, "I just saw two robots driving a van with a guy in his underwear hanging on the back of it with the red cape pulling two boys on skateboards behind with his feet." "How do you expect me to believe such a ridiculous story?" asked his mother. Finally, the van came to a screeching halt in front of an old abandoned warehouse. The sudden stop made Captain Underpants flip over the roof of the van and crash through the front door of the building. "Well, well, well," said a strange voice from inside the warehouse. "It looks like as if we have a visitor." Chapter 15. Dr. Diaper. George and Harold hid behind the van until the coast was clear. Then they sneaked up to the hole in the door and peeked inside. Captain Underpants was all tied up. The two robots were standing guard, and a strange little man wearing a diaper was laughing maniacally. "I am the evil Dr. Diaper," the strange little man told Captain Underpants, "and you will be the first to witness my takeover of the world." Dr. Diaper placed the stolen crystal into a large machine called the Laser-Matic 2000. The machine started to light up and make loud noises. Heavy gears began shifting and spinning, and a laser beam from the crystal shot straight up through a hole in the roof. "In exactly 20 minutes, this laser beam will blow up the moon and send huge chunks of it crashing down upon every major city in the world," laughed Dr. Diaper. "Then I will rise from the rubble and take over the planet." "Only one thing can help us now," said George. "What?" asked Howard. "Rubber doggy doo-doo," said George. Howard took the fake doggy doo-doo and a slingshot from George's backpack and handed them to him. "Be careful," said Howard. "The fate of the entire planet is in your hands." With careful and precise aim, George shot the rubber doo-doo across the air and through the room. It landed with a plop right at the feet of Dr. Diaper. "Yes!" whispered George and Howard. Plop! Dr. Diaper looked down at the doo-doo between his feet and turned bright red. "Oh dear me," he cried. "I'm dreadfully embarrassed. Please excuse me." He began to waddle towards the restroom. "This has never happened before, I assure you," he said. I guess with all the excitement, oh dear. With Dr. Diaper was off changing himself, George and Howard sneaked into the old warehouse. Immediately, the robots detected the boys and began marching towards them. "Destroy the intruders," said the robots. "Destroy the intruders." George and Howard screamed and ran to the back of the warehouse. Luckily, George found two old boats and gave one of them to Howard. "We are not going to have to resort to extreme graphic violence, are we?" asked Howard. "I sure hope not." Chapter 16, the extremely graphic violence chapter. Warning. The following chapter contains graphic scenes showing two boys beating the tar out of a couple of robots. If you have high blood pressure or if you faint at the sight of motor oil, we strongly urge you to take better care of yourself and stop being such a baby. Flip-O-Rama. As everybody knows, nothing enchants the silly action sequences more than cheesy animation. And so, for the first time in the great history of literature, we proudly bring to you the latest in cheesy animation technology, the art of Flip-O-Rama. Robot Rampage. Tick-ting, zing, 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 zing. Flip-O-Rama 2. George saves Howard. Thump, 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 thump. Flip-O-Rama 3. Howard returns the favor. Thump, 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 thump. Flip-O-Rama 4. Mixed nuts and bolts. Yeah! Woohoo! Yeah! Woohoo! Chapter 17. The Escape. After defeating the robots, George and Howard untied Captain Underpants. "Come on," cried Howard. "Let's get out of here." "Wait," said Captain Underpants. "We have to save the world first." So George and Howard and Captain Underpants frantically looked all over the Lasermatic 2000, searching for a way to shut it down and stop the inevitable disaster. Said Howard. "I think this might be the lever we want." He pulled the self-destruct lever with all his might. Suddenly, the Laser-O-Matic 2000 began to sputter and shake. The huge laser beam began flying off in all directions. "It's gonna blow!" cried Howard. "Run for your lives!" "Not so fast!" screamed Dr. Diaper, who had appeared out of nowhere. "You have demolished my robots, you destroyed my Laser-Matic 2000, and you ruined my one chance to take over the world. But you won't live to tell the tale." He pulled out his Diaper-Matic 2000 ray gun and pointed it at George, Howard, and Captain Underpants. Captain Underpants quickly stretched a pair of underwear and shot it at Dr. Diaper. The underwear landed right on top of the evil doctor's head. "Help!" cried Dr. Diaper. "I can't see! I can't see!" George and Howard ran out of the warehouse as fast as they could. "Great shot, Captain Underpants." "There's just one thing I want to know," said George. "Where did you get that extra pair of underwear?" "What extra pair?" said Captain Underpants. "Never mind that," cried George. "Let's just get out of here before that Laser-Matic thingy boom blows." The Laser-Matic 2000 blew up, tearing apart. It sent flaming shards of red-hot metal in every direction. Fire fell from the skies around our heroes, and the earth began to crumble beneath their feet. "Oh no!" cried Howard. "We are doomed!" Boom! Chapter 18. To make a long story short, they got away. Chapter 19. Back to school. George, Howard, and Captain Underpants made a quick stop outside the police station. They tied Dr. Diaper to a lamppost and attached a note to him. "Arrest me." "There," said Captain Underpants. "That ought to explain everything." "Back in 15 minutes. Please don't commit any crimes until we return." "Thank you." Then George and Howard led Captain Underpants back to John Howitz Elementary School. "Where are we going here?" Captain Underpants. "Well," said George. You have to do some undercover work here. Yeah, said Harold, reaching into his backpack. Put these clothes on and make it snappy. Don't forget your hair, said George. Captain Underpants quickly got dressed behind some bushes. Well, now, how do I look? He asked. Pretty good, said George. Now try not to look really mad. Captain Underpants made the nastiest face he could. You know, said Harold, he kinda looks like Mr. Crab. Harold, whispered George, he is Mr. Crab. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. Before long, they were all back inside Mr. Crab's office. Okay, Captain Underpants, said Mr. George. You are now Mr. Crab. Snap your fingers, whispered Harold. Oh yeah, said George. Snap! You are now Mr. Crab. Who is Mr. Crab? Asked Captain Underpants. Oh no, cried Harold. It's not working. The boys tried again and again to dehypnotize Captain Underpants, but nothing seemed to work. Said Harold. Let me see the instruction manual for the ring. George checked his pants pockets. Said George. I think I lost it. You what? Cried Harold. The two boys searched frantically through the office, but the 3D hypno ring instruction manual was nowhere to be found. Never mind, said George. I have an idea. He removed flowers from a large vase in the corner, then poured out all the water over Captain Underpants' head. What did you do that for? Cried Harold. I saw him do this in a cartoon once, said George. So it's gotta work. After a few minutes, Mr. Crab slowly came to. What's going on here? He demanded. Why am I all wet? George and Harold had never been so glad to see Mr. Crab in their all life. I am so happy I could cry, said Harold. Well, you're gonna cry when I give that video game to the football team, shouted Mr. Crab. I had it with you too. Mr. Crab took the videotape out of his file cabinet. You boys are dead meat, he sneered. He stormed out of his office with the video and headed toward the gym. George and Harold smiled. Wait till the football team sees that video, said Harold. Yeah, said George. I sure hope they like singing Purple Dragons. Hey, look, I found the 3D hypno-ring instruction manual. It was in my shirt pocket, not my pants pocket. Well, throw that thing away, said Howard. We'll never need it again. I sure hope not. Warning. Whatever you do, don't put water on anybody's head when they are in a trance. This will cause the hypnotized person to slip back and forth from trance to reality whenever they hear the sound of fingers snapping. La 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 la, we love Boomer, la la. Purple Dragon sing-along friends. Things at John Howard's elementary school were never quite the same after that fateful day. The football team enjoyed Misty Crab's video so much that they changed their name from Knuckleheads to the Purple Dragon Sing-Along Friends. The name change didn't go too well with the fans, but hey, who's going to argue with a bunch of line breakers? George and Harold went back to the old ways, pulling pranks and cracking jokes and making new comic books. They had to keep an eye on Mr. Crab though. Snap! 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 Because for some strange reason, every time he heard the sound of fingers snapping, snap, Mr. Krabs turned back into you know who. Oh no, cried Harold. Here we go again. Tra-la-la! Thank you for reading this book with me and thank you for watching this video. I really like your support. Please like and subscribe and comment in the section below if you like the video. Thank you once again. The next video will come soon.